Steroids, everything legal and illegal they avoid telling you. So, the topic of today's presentation is steroids. Yep, I bet you didn't expect me to go into this topic. So, what we'll be discussing first, we'll start off with what are steroids, the taboo and its reputation today, my current opinion of them, the history of steroids, people caught using them, people who died from abusing them, sports where it's not properly tested for, bad side effects, current science surrounding it, ways people attain it and why it's used for health reasons in some people, countries where it is legal to use, the different types and how they work. This actually surprised me. Prior to investigating this stuff, I wasn't aware that there were actually different types of steroids. But maybe most people know that. Maybe I was just out of the loop for a while. How they are used, where to learn how to use them in case you're interested in that stuff, how to synthesize them, and popular steroid alternatives. So, what are steroids? They're popularized in the media as a magic pill for getting huge and muscular with minimum work. Although based on what a lot of people that have used them have spoke and talked about them previously, like Kai Green, it doesn't seem like that much of a magic pill. Apparently, it doesn't work without putting in the effort, but that's what most people think of it as. They mimic a hormone in our body that our body produces naturally called testosterone, which is often associated with masculinity, and higher levels of this, which occur in men, tend to appear in men who are more predisposed to a more strong and muscular physique. If you have, quite possibly the first time you heard about steroids was in conjunction with hearing about the actor Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a bodybuilder before he became an actor and a governor, and he used them, as well as many other notable figures. The taboo and its reputation today. Utilizing steroids is considered cheating in many sports. The general public loses respect for anyone caught using them. And in America, its use for non-health purposes is illegal and punishable by law. It's a class 3 scheduled drug, I believe. So you can go to jail for having it without consent. Many, but not all, athletic testing bodies will eliminate athletes from competing or strip them of their belts if they are caught using it after they do their blood work or urine tests. It gives people an edge not attainable naturally. So oftentimes people will look at someone with impressive physique and say and question whether they're natural or not. And the slang term for natural is natty. Is often used in YouTube videos and in articles. So my current opinion of them, I've never agreed with the government telling us what we should and should not use, regardless if it's illegal or not. I think that everyone as an adult, while I don't agree with kids using it, but as an adult, it's your body and you should decide what you want to do with it and how you want to affect it, as well as deal with any side effects and consequences from your bad habits. Regardless of how you reach your goals, if you get them, and even if you're using steroids, I'm going to respect you. I'm more than some fat or scrawny guy that says they're bad and hasn't had a fraction of your strength or physique. As someone who has struggled in order to get into shape more than once and knows the amount of work that goes into it, I can't really hate on anyone that is in a better physique than me, even if they are using. I also respect the risk you take, the money spent, and the dedication. This is why I still have respect for Arnold Schwarzenegger and a lot of other bodybuilders who sacrifice a lot of and risk their lives in order to attain that physique. I also think, despite what people say in the media, I think having a better physique or more muscular physique is going to get you better girls and guys. It's just how the world works, regardless of what people say. You'll notice that fit people tend to gravitate towards fit people when everything else is stripped away. And a win is a win. If you do win using some performance enhancing drug, um, regardless of how you get it, even if it isn't officially acknowledged, I think you won. Um, of course, you shouldn't use it if it's illegal in that sport, but I feel like if you are willing to make that consequence, I think all sports should allow for it if people are going to make that thing. And it doesn't always guarantee a win. I believe Oscar De La Hoya, a boxer, actually fought another fighter who was roiding, and he won, even though he wasn't. So I think that um, it isn't a win-all in all sports because there is technique and just sheer talent, reaction speed, and other factors that can't be um, and experience that can't be supplemented by using um, things like steroids. Also, I don't think most people should do it if you don't need it. Uh, they don't even need supplements in most cases. Like most results with discipline you can attain naturally, and if you haven't been working out for long enough, you should work out longer because sometimes it's just a matter of putting in the time and the work. But most people want quick results, and I don't even think that these supplements and stuff will get them, will be a magic pill as they are today. So most people shouldn't do it unless that is your job and your livelihood. So I'm not for or against it, but that's just my opinion. You could, regardless of the laws, but you could formulate your own. So let's look at steroids and their history in America. Its use, interestingly enough, predates its discovery. Extractions of hormones from urine began in China in 100 BCE, and they used it to treat sexual dysfunction. So these things that they extracted from urine were actually a form of steroids. Its actual discovery and labeling and medical use started in the 1930s by Adolf Butenandt, a German scientist and possibly a Nazi, even though it was never proven. A lot of these Nazis, after the war, ran away or denied any association and weren't punished. It was popularized for use by the Soviet Union and East Germany, who created programs to give them to their Olympic and amateur athletes to enhance their performance in the 1940s. So it was actually used in the Olympics back then, and it wasn't outlawed initially when it was created. The success the Russians had resulted in John Ziegler, a U.S. Olympic physician, creating their own form of a steroid for use in competition called Dianabol. And this was approved for use in 1958 and was also used as on the side to treat burn victims and elderly. So steroids were actually widely used in the Olympics during this time. Steroid use in America. The drug's off-label use during this time, outside of burns and medical treatment, became popular with bodybuilders and weightlifters because they noticed the side effects of making it you more noticeably more muscular and helping to attain that big, bulky physique. However, it wasn't until 1976 that side effects were discovered and it was banned from use by the International Olympic Committee. The laws and disapproval of their use increased by 1990 with the introduction of the Anabolic Steroid Control Act, which classified it as a drug and made it illegal to use. So, now we know that at one point steroids, like most other drugs, were legal and then were made illegal as they found more side effects and things going wrong with its use. And despite that, people still use them because it's their body, and who is the government to say what you can and cannot use? So, as a result, there have been many people that died from abusing it, like a widely known bodybuilder who admitted to his excessive use of steroids, Rich Piana. You can find him on YouTube. Dean Warmby, Andreas Munzer, Ali Cooney, and many others have experienced side effects in the aftermath of its use. Larry Wheels, a notable powerlifter and bodybuilder, and he's crossing over into other sports as well, has admitted to using steroids, and he is still alive. He's a young guy in his 20s, and he says, "You need to understand that I can't sit here and tell you not to do it. But what I can tell you is to educate yourself, and educate yourself on the risk, because there are serious risks with steroids and it's not talked about enough. Educate yourself on the risk and then realize that if it's something you're going to do, that you need to dedicate your life. You need to be willing to die for it, because that's the kind of drive and passion you need to have before thinking about using it, because of how easily it's gonna, once you take it, it'll change you, oftentimes permanently. And unless you're willing to make that sacrifice and and make an educated decision when crossing that line from natural to non-natural, you have to realize sometimes there's no going back. So let's talk about some people who were caught or admitted to taking them. Ben Johnson was a Canadian Olympic sprinter who beat the world record at the time, but in the aftermath he was found to have used steroids in his blood test, and consequently he was expelled from the Olympics and stripped of his title and not allowed to participate anymore. Marion Jones, another Olympic track and field star, was caught using it. Lance Armstrong, a world-class professional cyclist who won many cycling competitions. I think it was Tour de France he participated in. He was also caught using it. John Jones was caught with minute amounts of steroids in his blood, although he denies taking them. He thinks it was mixed in with a supplement. Someone was mixing it in with the supplements, like his coaches and stuff, which is possible. Arnold Schwarzenegger admitted widely during his professional bodybuilder career to having using it, and he's also known for movies such as The Terminator or Kindergarten Cop and many others. He's a great actor, and he was also the California governor. Motivating guy. Evander Holyfield, Vitaly Klitschko, Roy Jones Jr. all had it found in their blood work. Although in that competitive sport, people might have mixed it in. Who knows? Half-board Bjornsson, the current deadlift record. He's deadlifted the most out of anyone who's ever deadlifted on record. And Elliot Husso, as well as Eddie. Actually, I don't think Eddie has admitted to it, but Bjornsson and Elliot Husso. Bjornsson is also known as I believe it's the Tower in Game of Thrones, or the Mountain. Sorry. And Elliot Husso, they're both strongman competitors, have admitted to using it at some point. Larry Wheels, who I quoted, is a well-known powerlifting champion, as well as many actors like Charlie Sheen, Mickey Rourke, Joe Rogan, Dwayne Johnson. These are celebrities that took it at some point in order to put on muscle. So a lot of people have actually been caught or admitted to taking them. So that's interesting to know. So sports where it's used and is not tested for. Pride is a fight organization where they don't actually test for steroid use. I believe it's based out of Russia, and there is no blood work done, so they don't officially they don't condone it, but they don't test for it. So a lot of the fighters can actually take it without being noticed for it. Mr. Olympia and the IFBB, the International Federation of Bodybuilding, unofficially they a lot of the bodybuilders are known to take it in order to bulk up and get to their ideal physique. A lot of powerlifter competitions test for it. Muay Thai, since it's not very regulated worldwide, oftentimes they can take it, although they probably don't because they're too poor to. The majority of the competitors, and probably others. So, although it is widely condoned, it is sometimes not tested for because these organizations are not established enough to have enough money in order to test for it, because testing is expensive. I believe it's like $300 to $1,000 per athlete. So only well-established, well-funded organizations can do these tests. And in my opinion, it's not worth it. People's bodies and how far they want to push them is their decision. Now, the bad side effects I've been talking about, how it could end your career and change your life and change your body indefinitely, but I haven't actually talked about how. So here there are different types of steroids, and not all of these steroids have the same side effects, but some common ones are shrunken testicles, not your dick, but like the sac can actually get shrunken. That's a common misconception. Development of female characteristics in males, so you can get like breasts and go bald. It'll accelerate balding. And in females, you can develop male characteristics like facial hair, a more masculine physique, a deeper voice. It can cause mood swings and hormone imbalances. It'll lower your resistance to infection because it's an immune system suppressant. Oftentimes, people with organ with asthma, and it's also anti-inflammatory. So people with asthma, they take a spray which contains a steroid in it, oftentimes, which will reduce immune responses to non-pathogenic things like dust, and to make it easier for them to breathe. It can increase weight gain and appetite. It could cause hardening of your arteries and cause cardiac hypertrophy, heart attacks, heart disease, and more. After stopping its use, in most cases, most of the muscle you gain and strength gains are going to go away, because that muscle and stuff that's gained oftentimes is related to the higher levels of that hormone. So once you stop taking it, boom, you lose it. So this is another reason why it's better to go and do things the proper way. So here's the current science surrounding it. It increases muscle synthesis, obviously, because that's why most people take it, in order to put on more muscle more easily. And interestingly, according to recent studies, it may actually cause a permanent increase in muscle fibers and strength due to something called muscle memory, and increased replication of myonuclei, which are like little memory cells in your muscle fibers. So even after you lose the muscle, it might be easier to get that muscle back, because those myonuclei that remember your muscle being bigger are still there. It speeds up attainment of reaching your genetic potential and allows you to bypass those genetic barriers from your regular hormone levels by increasing your propensity for the environment of your body for holding more muscle. Oftentimes these days they use antagonistic hormone in order to prevent side effects like female characteristics and male characteristics. What this does is prevent the other hormones that rise in response to your increased testosterone or steroid in your blood, and it'll prevent that increased antagonistic hormone from binding to their receptors, or it'll even bind to that and make them ineffective, so that you won't gain breasts or gain facial hair in women, etc. Based on what Kai Green said, it doesn't work unless you got everything else in order: your diet, your exercise, your routine, your sleep, etc. So unless you're getting results without it, you probably won't get results with it. So there's no point in taking it once again. Legal ways people attain it: they usually go to a doctor and get a prescription. This is how Joe Rogan does it. I believe he's on testosterone replacement therapy. Men with low testosterone experience muscle degradation, low energy, low sexual dysfunction, impotence, and a variety of other side effects. They also prescribe it to women who experience hot flashes. So that's interesting. So if you experience these things and they do a blood test and find out you're deficient in it, doctors will actually give you a prescription in order to replace it. More often when you're over 40, men's testosterone in particular starts reducing, so they get it replaced if you have enough money to support that habit, and it'll make you feel better. So even though it's illegal in America, there are a lot of countries where it is legal to use or attain, even without a prescription. For example, Mexico, Thailand, Colombia, Egypt. You can actually go to a pharmacy and just purchase it without even a prescription. In Canada, the UK, Austria, Netherlands, and Spain, it's legal to have it, but I don't think you can buy it without a prescription. In India, there's not much regulation surrounding it, but they seem to have a lot of counterfeit products based on what I read on the internet. And then there are a bunch of other countries where it's legal to get, like Bulgaria, Iran, Israel, Lebanon, Moldova, Pakistan, Russia, Serbia, Sri Lanka, Syria, and Ukraine, and probably Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, but I haven't heard much about them. I couldn't find anything on the internet with regards to them. So the different types and how they work. So there are a lot of different types, and not all steroids come in needles, which was another surprise. So there are actually pill forms of a lot of steroids. So some pill forms are dianabol, trenbolone, anavar, proviron, halotestin, androl, winstrol, and some injectable forms are equipoise, primobolan, decadorbinol, durbolin, Depotest, Androestro, Testex, and Finajet. These are some I found off the net that are more popular. Not all steroids are equally potent. Some are more potent than our natural hormone testosterone in that it'll cause, by taking less, you don't need as much in order to create muscle generating response in your body. Dianabol and just like anything that's varied and has different types, different steroids are better at different things. For example, I believe, let's see. Okay, so different steroids have different effects. Different steroids, different effects, and different potencies, like I just mentioned. For example, dianabol increases your muscle size rapidly, but most of that size increase is water weight. It's notorious for side effects like breasts in men and facial hair in women. So you got to be very careful and know what you're doing when you're taking it. Anavar tends to be used more by female athletes because it can cause lean muscle gain without male characteristics presenting themselves. So because it has a different mechanism of action, it hits different receptors. A lot of people use it for leaning out, and because it's a safer steroid, so it's less likely to cause hormonal imbalances. And it's also popular with endurance athletes. Proviron tends to be used by bodybuilders in order to get big, and apparently increases sex drive as well. Another thing I read was that the bonus and the reason why bodybuilders tend to take injectables more often than pills is because you don't have to take them as frequently. They use intramuscular needle, and then that injection will last for like a week or more. Often different steroids are stacked in order to get different levels of potency and get different desired side effects, especially since when you take something for a long time, as with any supplement, it loses effect. So even with steroids, you'll have to take more in order to get the same results as before. I don't know how people are. It takes a lot of guts to use an intramuscular needle. Just imagine, or any needle, and putting that thing into yourself, that seems very painful to me. I don't think I could do it. I could cut someone else open because I used to volunteer as a surgical assistant, but I don't think I could do that to myself unless I got like injured or something. So how steroids are used? They're usually cycled, so they'll do it for a couple of months and then they'll take a break so that their hormones will get back to normal. Before starting a cycle, people often get blood work done in order to make sure that all their hormones and minerals and vitamins are normal and optimal and prior to starting, so that way they'll have a frame of reference and know if anything's wrong. They are usually stacked with different steroids. They don't take one alone. People that often use post-cycle therapy in order to minimize hormone imbalances. So in order to give time, they take a couple of other supplements after stopping taking steroids in order to allow their hormones to get back to normal prior to uh, prior to cutting off the supplements completely and going off everything. As their cycle comes to an end, the period of time they're taking the steroid, they slowly taper down the dose in order to um, allow their body to adjust. Because if you cold turkey it, your body will stop. So when you start taking a steroid, your body stops producing testosterone. How long it takes tends to vary based on the steroid, and then they taper it off. So your body will have a chance to see that the amount of this steroid is less in your body, and it'll start to boot up that testosterone producing system in your body. The biggest results are seen when people often start using them, and effects tend to taper off after a cycle, and changes are not as evident unless they use bigger doses on their subsequent cycles. They often use steroids with something called estrogen blockers, which is like the female hormone. So testosterone is the male hormone. Estrogen is the female hormone, and that tends to rise in response to increasing testosterone or testosterone, a chemical similar to testosterone, which is a steroid in your blood. So they use estrogen blockers in order to avoid attaining female characteristics and side effects. Bodybuilders who admit to usage often emphasize that unless your diet, exercise, and rest periods are perfected, steroids will not work, and you should get them right and see results prior to turning this. Steroids speed up and enhance results. They don't give them. So who said this? Rich Piana. I was watching his YouTube channel while I was doing research, and he was one of the bodybuilders that said that this should be gotten right, as well as a number of other guys. Kai Green also mentioned it. So where do you learn how to use them, and where did I get all this information? You could just YouTube it or Google it. It's all there. So how to synthesize steroids? The first thing that came to my head was that you can probably get, I did this in my biology class, you can get bacteria and use and get plasmids, and then you can inject those plasmids and the plasmids are basically DNA or DNA strains that have different functionalities. So if you get plasmids that produce a particular steroid and inject it into the bacteria will start producing it if you put it in the right medium. But the way that most people seem to do it, based on what I saw on YouTube, is they'll get a powder form and they'll mix it with sort of an oil, and then that's how they'll get their thing. You can Google how to make anabolic steroids at home, and you'll get a list of stuff. So popular steroid alternatives. So although legal alternatives aren't as effective as the injectables and what bodybuilders are using, there are things that you can use to boost your internal system producing testosterone, your natural the testosterone that your body produces. Some of these testosterone boosters are zinc, tribulus tetris, fenugreek, DHEA, and ashwagandha. And I heard of another thing called AA, but I'm not sure what that is. I can't remember what it stands for. But apparently there's something that they say is very effective and even more effective than some steroids, and it's totally legal, and it's not a steroid. I heard a bodybuilder mention it on YouTube when he was discussing it. So yeah, I hope that helped. That's all about steroids, and I hope you learned something. Till next time, from Your Lean Physique.